So Jesus summons his 12 disciples, and then the names of the 12 apostles are these. And so a lot of times we think about disciples and apostles being the same thing, and yet there's this distinction. A disciple is someone who follows the master, someone who is a learner, someone who tries to become like the master, learning as much as they can from that master, whoever that person may be, whoever that rabbi may be. And so they try to learn, and they sit at the feet of the master trying to find out what is his thought process, how does he think, how can I become like him. And so he now upgrades them to apostle. And what does apostle mean? Apostle is different from a disciple. A disciple is someone who learns. An apostle is someone who is sent. And as my professor in the seminary used to say, there's the difference between pempo and apostalo. Pempo means someone who's sent with no authority. So it's like someone, like when you send out your kids to the corner store to pick up a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, and a stick of butter. They have no authority to speak on your behalf. They just have this gopher job they have to do. But apostello is like a diplomat for a kingdom. They're sent with the very authority of the person who is sending. So that a diplomat who is a diplomat for another country speaks with the authority of the leader of their country. And so Jesus, now he gave them authority over unclean spirits to drive them out and to cure every disease and every illness. So Jesus, in giving them authority, moves them from being disciple to being apostle, being simply someone who has listening and learning. Now you are sent. Now, do they have to then stay apostles and not ever be disciples? No, of course they have to come back and they have to continue learning from Jesus until such time as the Holy Spirit is given to them, so that they have that fullness of the authority to be able to go off. But we look at this in our own lives. We say, all of us are called by Jesus to be disciples. We are all called to follow, to learn, to grow, to become more and more like our teacher. But we're not just called to be disciples. To learn from him means that then we are also called to go out and to bring the kingdom to every person. And just as an aside, what is the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven in the preaching of Jesus is the hidden yet powerful presence of God's unconditional love in Jesus, restoring human wholeness and life. In other words, the kingdom of Jesus is Jesus himself. Now, I said that just because I wanted to make sure that I could remember the definition I had to memorize for my Christology test back in 2000, and I did. 19 years later, 22 years later, I still got it down. All right. But the kingdom of heaven is Jesus himself. Jesus moving in our midst, because he is the king. And so we look and we say, this is our mission. That we're now missionary disciples. We're not just learners, but we learn from him to go out and to bring Jesus to each person that we meet. And as we learned, if you went to the parish mission last fall, that to be a disciple means to then make disciples who make disciples. That it's not just good enough to say, okay, you need to come and follow Jesus, but the people that are coming to follow Jesus must then be people who go out and draw others to Jesus. And again, this isn't about just saying, okay, we have the best ideas, so we want you to follow us. But it's about entering into that relationship with the one who gives us life, because he is the way, the truth, and the life itself. It's about bringing good news. Not about saying, I have a way of thinking and I think you'd find it very helpful. Or, I'm right and you're wrong. But it's a matter of saying, here is the God of the universe who is so in love with you. And he's transformed my life, and I so want him to transform yours as well. Let us ask God for those gifts of the Holy Spirit of wisdom and courage, so that we may not just be disciples, but that we may be sent, that we may be missionary disciples, that we may be apostles, going out and drawing people into that relationship with Christ, that we may have the wisdom to be able to see how is God moving in their lives, how He wants to touch them through me, and the courage then to be able to step out in that faith.